The presentation today is Ellen White's Vaccine-Damaged Son, debunking the myth of vaccine endorsement. This is just about a 9-minute presentation. It's very simple. Summarize it very nicely. This rumor has several variations, and it is widely circulated. Here's the gist of it. Ellen White was vaccinated and encouraged others to do so. And since she vaccinated her son, that means she endorsed vaccines. Willie, by the way, is in the middle there. He was the vaccine-damaged son. This is the actual photocopy of the letter that Willie White here wrote. Most of these rumor variations seem to be based on Willie C. White's letter to Dr. L.C. Kellogg. I believe the misunderstanding could have been easily avoided if, 1, the timeline of events had been factored in, and 2, the clear counsels given to E.G. White by God on the use of drugs had been examined and obeyed. So, let's analyze Willie's letter in this context. The letter on this slide is a photocopy of the original. The date is February 5, 1924. I retyped this document word for word, single space, so that it could be enlarged for easier reading, and here it is. Dear Brother Kellogg, I hold in my hand your letter of January 20th, asking if I can tell you what the attitude was of Mrs. E.G. White toward vaccination. Okay? She regarded it as a perplexing question. I do not remember of her ever saying or writing that she had special instruction regarding vaccination. In my earlier days, she spoke of it as something dangerous and related my own experience. She said that as a child, I was perfectly healthy until I was vaccinated, and by that, my health was much impaired. Mother listened attentively to the argument that the methods of vaccination had been improved. And when in our travels we were brought to a large city where smallpox was raging, and the matter was discussed as to whether or not that I and my associates should be vaccinated, she offered no objection. And in view of the argument of physicians that it was not only for our own safety, but for the safety of others, I and my associates were vaccinated. Well, that is a time-tried argument, isn't it? Okay, let's study this. Let's analyze this. Paragraph 2 says, she regarded it as a perplexing question. Well, that opens up a whole new question. Why would a prophet of the Lord be perplexed about this? Ellen White received multiple, comprehensive, strongly worded, unambiguous warnings from the Lord against the use of drugs, their extreme danger, and that we were not to use them. In fact, we were commanded to build our own health institutions to counteract the use of drugs. We were to show the world the better way. Therefore, the only possible reason she may have been perplexed and allowed her son to be vaccinated was simply that God had not yet given her the first comprehensive health vision, which contained all that information against drugs. Let's look at the dates, see if this is true. Friday night, June 6, 1863, during worship service at the home of Aaron Hilliard in Otsego, Michigan, God gave the first comprehensive health vision, including the warnings against drug use. Willie was 8 years old at the time. Willie was born August 29, 1854, which means that after June 6, 1863, she would not have used pharmaceuticals on her son or recommended its use to anyone, for it would have been against the commands of God. The question then is, was Willie vaccinated before or after the first comprehensive health vision? It's simple. Let's look at paragraph 2 again. In my earlier days, she spoke of it as something dangerous and related my own experience. She said that as a child, I was perfectly healthy until I was vaccinated, and by that, my health was much impaired. The wording indicates that he was a child. It sounds like he was too young to remember getting vaccinated, that she had to tell Willie about it, which would very likely make Willie meaningfully younger than 8 years old when he was vaccinated, before the first comprehensive health vision. If Willie had remembered it, he would have told of the experience himself rather than quoting his mother's story. All right, now we back up a sentence. I do not remember of her ever saying or writing that she had special instruction regarding vaccination. Okay? Why would she? She had been given the broad and clear warnings against drugs, which would have included vaccines. There are literally over 22,000 different drugs on the market, now at least, all of which have numerous horrifying adverse reactions, side effects, precautions, and warnings. Do we really expect God should list these one by one before we will believe? She was given general principles, such as these three. 1, nature alone possesses curative powers. Nature alone possesses curative powers, and vaccines are not natural. Medicines have no power to cure, but will generally hinder nature in her efforts. Number 2, drugs never cure disease. They only change the form and location. Number 3, more deaths have been caused by drug taking than from all other causes combined. And there were many, many such quotes throughout all of her writings over the years. She offered no objection. Okay? She offered no objection. Paragraph 1, let's review the paragraphs. Paragraph 1 asks what Ellen White's attitude was toward vaccination. Paragraph 2 tells that she allowed her son to take a vaccine and that it impaired her health. Paragraph 3 is not a separate vaccination event when Willie was older, as it first sounds like it is. He was simply telling how his mother arrived at that perplexing decision to vaccinate her child. She offered no objection simply because it was before the health vision. She didn't have the authority on this. So let's read the 3rd paragraph again with that in mind. Mother listened attentively to the argument that the methods of vaccination had been improved. And when in our travels we were brought to a large city where smallpox was raging and the matter was discussed as to whether or not that I and my associates should be vaccinated, she offered no objection. And in view of the argument of physicians that it was not only for our own safety but for the safety of others, I and my associates were vaccinated. Yes, that's what it's telling us. If Willie had been an adult, he would not have needed his mother's permission, and Ellen would not have been listening to the arguments of physicians because she would have long before received light from God about the use of pharmaceuticals. So let's review all this. Here we go. Did Ellen White take vaccines? We don't know. Neither she, her husband, or her boys ever stated that she did. Number 2, did Ellen White allow Willie to have a vaccine? Yes, and it impaired his health. Number 3, was he vaccinated before or after the health vision? Before. Number 4, did God give Ellen White light on vaccines? Only in principle. Vaccines were never specifically singled out. God's counsel was to discard the use of drugs, for he had already provided provisions in nature without adverse reactions. Last question, did Ellen White encourage vaccine use? We have no record of such a thing. Making no objection before the vision does not constitute an endorsement. It constitutes ignorance because she didn't know this stuff yet. God hadn't revealed it. All right, the contents of that comprehensive health vision and its thorough warnings against drug use are recorded for all to see. It is found in Spiritual Gifts, volumes 4A, chapter 39, entitled Health. Through the years, Ellen White gave many more dire warnings and pronouncements against the use of drugs. Okay, and that's that simple 9-minute presentation. I am done. Thank you.